Cinematic, high-resolution scene inside an elegant fine dining restaurant. In the foreground, a confident single mother in a stylish dress sits at a table with a phone in her hand, looking distracted and slightly dismissive. At the next table, a young black man in a suit sits alone, looking tense and uneasy as if he feels judged. The background shows other well-dressed diners blurred out to keep focus on the two main characters. Add dramatic lighting to emphasize the contrast in emotions. Include a bold red circle around the man and a red arrow pointing toward the woman to highlight the tension. It was supposed to be a fresh start. Marcus, a hard-working young man who had spent years juggling odd jobs, finally convinced himself to try something different, a blind date. He wasn't wealthy, not even close, but he was honest, kind, and hopeful. With just $5 folded neatly in his wallet, he stepped into the restaurant that night with more nerves than confidence. To him, the evening wasn't just about romance. It was about proving, to himself and maybe to the world, that he was worthy of being seen, respected, and loved. Yet, in a place where polished shoes and expensive laughter filled the air, Marcus's presence felt like an intrusion. The clinking glasses and low murmurs reminded him of a truth he could never escape. In their eyes, his skin and his pocket both spoke louder than his heart ever could. At another table, a woman sat with quiet authority. A single mother, a CEO, a figure of power and independence. She noticed Marcus the moment he walked in, not because of his clothes or his wallet, but because of the unease written all over his face. What neither of them knew was that before the night ended, their worlds would collide in a way no one in that room could have imagined. Marcus sat down, hands trembling slightly as he unfolded the menu. He already knew he couldn't afford anything on it, not really. But he wasn't here for the food. He was here for the chance to be seen, to connect, to feel like he belonged. Yet from the moment he entered, the room seemed to whisper against him. A waiter's smile faltered when he noticed Marcus's worn jacket. A group at a nearby table exchanged glances, muffling laughter behind their glasses. The sound cut deeper than words ever could. Still, Marcus kept his head high. He told himself he could make this work, that $5 and good intentions were enough. But when his date arrived, the silence grew heavier. She looked at him. First his clothes, then his empty table, then the wallet he nervously adjusted in his pocket. Her smile thinned. She leaned back, her eyes darting around the room as if searching for an escape. Every second of that quiet rejection burned Marcus from the inside out. Across the restaurant, the single mother and CEO watched. She could feel the discomfort spreading, not just from the woman sitting across from Marcus, but from nearly every table surrounding him. People weren't just noticing, they were judging. Their stares carried assumptions Marcus had known all his life. Too poor, too black, too out of place. The waiter returned, his tone clipped now, as though Marcus's presence was a problem to be solved. "Are you ready to order?" The question was polite enough on the surface, but the edge beneath it was sharp. Marcus stammered, embarrassed, trying to piece together something within his $5 reach. Before he could answer, his date shook her head, muttering that she had somewhere else to be, and just like that, she was gone. The chair still rocked from where she had stood, but the humiliation was already complete. A low ripple of whispers spread through the room like a silent verdict. Marcus sat frozen, $5 still untouched in his wallet, his chest heavy with shame. But what he didn't know, what no one in that restaurant could predict, was that someone had been watching closely, and she wasn't about to let this moment pass unnoticed. Marcus sat frozen, the echo of his date's departure still hanging in the air. Every glance in that restaurant felt like a spotlight, each whisper like a dagger. He tried to shrink into himself, but there was no hiding. He was on display, poor, black, and humiliated. The waiter returned, louder this time, his voice sharp enough for others to hear. "Sir, if you can't afford to order, I'll have to ask you to leave. We have other paying customers waiting." The words struck harder than any shove could have. Conversations around him slowed, eyes turning, waiting for the inevitable scene. Marcus's throat tightened. He reached for his wallet, fumbling with the single $5 bill, as if presenting proof that he had a right to be there. But the waiter only sneered, shaking his head. That won't cover much of anything here. A few diners chuckled under their breath. One man muttered, "Figures." For a moment, Marcus thought about walking out. Head down, dignity shattered. But his body refused to move. He had endured stares all his life, but this was different. This was public. This was cruel. His chest ached, his hands trembled, and his voice failed him. Then, the sound of a chair scraping against the floor cut through the tension. The CEO, the single mother at the other table, stood tall. All eyes shifted as she walked toward him. Her heels clicked against the tile, each step louder than the whispers. She stopped at Marcus's side, placing her hand firmly on his shoulder. And in that charged silence, with every eye watching, she spoke words that would flip the entire room upside down. The restaurant fell silent as the CEO's voice carried across the room. "This man deserves the same respect as anyone here. And if $5 isn't enough for your menu, then put the rest on my tab." Her words weren't loud, but they cut through the air like thunder. Every whisper stopped. Every chuckle died. Marcus's face burned with a mix of shame and relief. For the first time that night, someone had stood beside him, not as charity, but as defiance against the cruelty of the room. The waiter froze, unsure of what to say. Slowly, other diners shifted uncomfortably, confronted with their own quiet complicity. For Marcus, the night wasn't saved by money. It was saved by dignity, by the reminder that his worth wasn't tied to his wallet or to the color of his skin. Yet as he walked out of that restaurant, he knew this story wasn't just his. It was the story of countless others who had been judged, dismissed, or humiliated for being less than. The truth is, racism doesn't always scream. Sometimes it whispers in stares, sneers, and assumptions. It hides in places as ordinary as a restaurant, and it leaves scars long after the moment passes. Marcus left with his $5 still folded in his pocket. But he carried something heavier, a question that should weigh on all of us. How many more times will we sit in silence while someone is stripped of their dignity for the color of their skin? Because until that silence is broken, not just by one voice, but by all of us, the story will keep repeating.